How do you define casual or normalized sexism?
It's a tricky question. How do you define a concept that's been so blown out of proportion by only a few privileged bitches with nothing better to do with their time than notice there might be some minor differences in the way men and women treat each other?
Well, I use the term every day when I set the project up for two reasons, really. Partly because this really is impacting on women's lives on a daily basis.
Oh, is it? Is it really? Really impacting women's lives on a daily basis? Alright, bitch, you listen here and you listen good. It might be hard for my voice to get past your nose, which is frankly bigger than my beak, but you listen the fuck up. Do you remember those schoolgirls that were kidnapped by the Boko Haram? Yeah, them. I imagine this impacts their life on a daily basis. What about ISIS sex slaves who are beaten, tortured and raped? I imagine that impacts on their daily life just a little bit. I mean, it's not like one girl set herself on fire just to escape them. But please, continue to tell me how your vague concept of sexism impacts millions of women every day. Because the more you complain about your pitiful little problems, the more you devalue the problems faced by these women across the world. And it really shows how little you actually care about these women.
And partly because it has become so normalized in our society that we don't really even notice it anymore.
It's become normal in our society. If you're not going to give examples of what this sexism is, then what exactly makes it sexist if it's normal to the point people don't even fucking notice? And if they don't notice, I'm pretty sure it won't impact their life on a daily basis.
So I think I would define it as something that goes unnoticed, unchecked.
I notice you said unnoticed, so it's a non-issue. When you say people don't notice, I assume you mean women don't notice in this fictional sexism. Unless, of course, you think women aren't people.
And because of that, it becomes very difficult to challenge. Because if you challenge something that everybody else is just sort of letting go by, then you're the one who is seen as the prude, as being uptight.
You know what, just for fun, let's change the context here. She says if you challenge something that everybody else is letting go by. What about traffic? You see, to us normal, civilized human beings, that's what you feminazis are. Crazy, neurotic bitches yelling at traffic. The world has left you behind, and I'm grateful for it. We do not want people like you along for the ride.
Making a fuss about nothing, and I wanted to try and challenge that perception that much of sexism is just normal and it's just the way things are.
Like what? Give examples. What exactly is sexist here in the UK, where unfortunately you happen to come from? The Queen, perhaps? Or Theresa May, the Prime Minister? Or how about the fact there are more girls than boys enrolled in universities across the UK? Please, point out the sexism for me, because I can see plenty of it, but it's against men.
Why do people often react to complaints of sexism with phrases like, "Stop making a fuss, you're overreacting"?
What a great question. These obviously weren't picked beforehand to make it look like she knows what she's talking about. And besides, it's not like feminists ever take things too far.
Fuck dipshit, and get that camera out of my face, either!
Oh, we should film it.
Here tonight, we're not pointing fingers at these kids. We say, Lord, we're the men. We drop the girls.
What the fuck was that? See, feminists, this is your public image. This is what you've been reduced to. Like I said, yelling at traffic.
If we live in a society where, for girls, by the time they're 16, almost all of them have experienced a guy either exposing himself in front of them on the subway or rubbing himself up behind them, touching them on the bus.
Do you live under a fucking rock? Do you know how many cameras there are on the London Underground? I'd be surprised if there was a section of the Underground that wasn't watched by CCTV. And given your annoyingly middle-class voice, I'm going to assume you'd never even seen a bus before in your life, let alone used one. A busy bus route, you get crammed on like sardines. You constantly hear the driver telling people that can't get seats to move to the back of the bus to fit even more people on.
But teachers view this as just normal, and all of that helps to contribute to that idea that someone that speaks out is then being difficult. But I think it also comes from the idea that people see these as isolated incidents.
You think. So you have no proof? Of course you don't, you're a feminist. And don't stand there and fucking lie to us. You don't think. That's obvious. And it would be very easy to get evidence against these flashes on the tube. There are so many cameras, and not just mounted around the place, but on pretty much every person's phone. And do you think the only flashes out there are male? I hate to ruin your bubble, sweetheart, but some women are into some pretty kinky shit too.
It's usually a man who perhaps hasn't experienced this or witnessed it. And so he's seeing it through this completely different lens of this one-off experience and doesn't necessarily recognize the cumulative impact of all of these incidents together.
The cumulative effect of these men say I look good, so damn, I must be working at something fierce. In all seriousness though, I know some women that don't like catcalling, but on the flip side of the coin, some women do. And some just don't see it as a problem when it happens. It seems to me that the only people that care about catcalling are the people that never get catcalled. And they're trying to fight beauty standards because in the Venn diagram between pretty women and unable to identify its gender, well, I doubt there'd even be a cross-section there. But given the things I've talked about in this video, with problems women across the world actually face, do you actually reflect on what feminists here in the West complain about? It really puts it in perspective. So, lovely viewers, what pathetic first world problem can you think of for feminists to moan about next? I personally think manual cars are sexist because it's stick shift and not vagina shift. I'll put the ones that make me laugh the most at the end of my next video. And as always, thank you for your time.